Welcome to the Freelance Lounge, where photographers, videographers, editors, and producers gather to share experiences, gain practical knowledge, and feel less alone on the freelance roller coaster. Whether you're happily flying solo or running a production company on caffeine and hope, this is your community. In each episode, we dive deep into freelancer journeys and the challenges facing their careers. We'll tackle everything from awkward money talks and tax season panic to gear addiction and the art of not burning out while binge watching tutorials. Think of us as those behind the scenes conversations you crave with peers over post-shoot drinks. Pull up a chair, you're in good company. Episode 1, here we go.
Welcome to the Freelance Lounge. I'm Bruna.
I'm Dale.
And I'm Joon. Bruna, what is today's podcast about?
Today we're going to talk about our stories and how we met each other, what we're going to do here, what's the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate for the first episode, if you're listening to this, to also for people to get a chance to know us. And I think even for us to get a chance to know each other a little bit more, because it hasn't been that long since we all first met. I think Dale I met 2 months ago, Bruna, maybe 1 month ago, actually.
I think so too,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I have limited knowledge about your backgrounds, so I'm super excited to kind of get to know each other more as well, and I think, build our chemistry over time. So again, if you're listening, this is episode 1. Give us some slack.
Be patient.
Exactly.
It's going to be real good in about 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Or more.
Beyond just getting to know each other, in later episodes, we're going to be bringing on a bunch of guests from the industry. And we're going to be hearing their stories, but we're also going to be having a lot of fun segments, like freelance war stories, news around the industry, AI panic, all sorts of things. Yeah, it'll be a valuable resource, I think.
And then for listeners, this is also available in video format on YouTube.
Please like and subscribe, and let's get into the podcast.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about intros for each one of us. I'm curious about you, Bruna.
So yeah, my name is Bruna. As I said, I work as a producer at Pro Shooters, a photo and video production company that I run with this guy, Dale Tidy. And if I look back and think where I started working when I was 17 years old. I come from a family where my mom had to raise myself and my brother by herself. When my dad left, I was 7 years old. So since I was very young, I learned the importance of working hard and making things happen to yourself, because no one's gonna, come to you and save you. So yeah, so I started working pretty young. And then once I graduated high school, I started studying marketing. So I got a diploma in marketing. And since then, I worked in several companies doing several things. And then I worked as a project coordinator for 5 years. And at that point, that career was like part of my personality, part of my identity. It's like, I'm Bruna, I'm project coordinator. That was basically it.
And that was at an agency, right?
Yeah, it was an agency, which was pretty cool. Like, I met amazing people, very creative people, and very hard workers as well. And we're still friends nowadays. Every time I go back to Brazil, where I'm from, we still see each other and stuff, which is amazing. Yeah, even though it was awesome, I had fancy clients. I was coordinating a lot of projects at the same time and stuff. It was very exhausting. So at that point, I was in my late 20s, and I knew that I didn't want to have that kind of lifestyle forever, because it wasn't sustainable for me. And a fun fact, I'm a very tired person, so I like to work hard, but I'm not a workaholic. So I knew I didn't want to have that life anymore. So I decided to come to Canada, to Vancouver, for 1 year to study and work. I started working at Flyover Canada, and then I had,
interesting.
yeah, it
Okay.
was very fun. It was very different for me because, like all the responsibility I had back home with like a lot of clients, a lot of jobs, like juggling everything. And then I'd fly over Canada. I would go to work. I would do my work, and then I would just go to the beach after, or I would go home and not thinking about work at all. And at for a while, I thought this is what I wanted, and I was like, oh, I don't need to think about work after work, and I don't need to care. It's just like a job to pay my bills. But I realized I'm not the kind of person.
Mm.
So after Flavor Canada, I started working in an office, but it was in insurance at the time. And I worked in insurance for a few years. And in the meantime, I got my PR and everything. But I was I wasn't happy because I realized that I wanted to be the person that is like always offering ideas and think of ways to improve things and stuff. And I realized that my employers were like, we just want you to do your job. We don't want ideas, and which is fair. It's fine, but it's just not what I wanted for me, right? And I started realizing that and being like, I need to work somewhere where I have more autonomy, where I I feel like I share the same values. And at the same time, I was already dating Dale, and he had prosciutors and everything, and we he would share some ideas with me, and then we started thinking, why not working together? We saw a lot of potential, all the things I could bring to the table as, someone who had a diploma in marketing, and he used to be a project coordinator, and he was running everything by himself. So he needed someone, and I needed to change job desperately. So we thought, why not? So I joined Pro Shooters a year ago, and we've been working together since then. And then we're building a social presence. Now the clients know me as well. We've been replying to the clients quicker. We also are creating new website as well as creating a very cool system in Notion and all the admin stuff, which we do together. And and it was just very cool because it's like this person's very smart. This person see my potential, and this person also share the same values, which is we want to grow, we want to do things differently, we want to do things better. So why not join um, strengths and help each other and complement each other in the weaknesses as well. So I would say there is a perfectionist and a dreamer, which is amazing. I'm also a dreamer, but I'm more like, okay, how we are going to do this? What's plan A, B, C, and D?
Also, I have ADHD and I'm a serial procrastinator. So Bruna is like the antidote to
A lot of things.
a lot of things.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been pretty cool, and it's the first time I'm working in a non-formal environment, I would say.
Mm.
It is hard. It's been hard for me to, I was so used to wake up at a certain time and get to work at 8 and leave at 4 and have all this structure. And I am someone who likes structure. And as a freelancer, is one thing we don't have is a structure. So you need to build one for yourself. And that could be challenging. I thought it would be so easy because, I'm so good at this. And I noticed that I wasn't. I found out that it took me, I think, 6 months to create a routine for myself, sustainable one. And and sometimes I fail. And I just like take an afternoon nap, and that's fine because on the next day I can work harder and get things done. So yeah,
That's fascinating.
it's been an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
I think I talked a lot, so feel free to cut whatever you want to cut. Or
No, that was
Good. I think it gets me thinking though of why it's important to know about everybody's backgrounds. With this podcast too, obviously in the name, it's Freelance Lounge. So we're going to talk a lot about freelancing. But I think the reality of freelance industries is that you do have to look at it in terms of people, and everybody's so different and everybody has different drives. And I think what I'm hearing, and I'm sure we'll hear it more from each of our backgrounds, is that everybody's unique makeup and story leads to separate problems or different challenges for everybody. And I think even their understanding of what freelancing is, because the more I get to know Dale too, I totally understand the vision that you just mentioned too. And with that, I think your approach to freelancing and your understanding of what freelancing is and what end game freelancing is actually quite unique, I think. And with Bruna's kind of involvement too in the tag team there, I think that's going to be very interesting as well in terms of what the outcome is. And so I think that's why it's important to know each of our backgrounds too, as long as it is. And like introductions, I guess, for a stranger can be very tedious to get through. But I think it's important, again, to know who's saying what and why, right? We can start to kind of put two and two together as to, okay, Bruna has this type of background. So on these types of topics, going to have this type of perspective. Makes sense. So thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Yeah, great job. I could listen to her story all day long.
Well, you better be able to.
Yeah.
You have
It's a good one.
You don't have any choice. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I would like to pass the ball to Joon, and I'm curious to hear more about you.
If I'm trying to pick what's important in my journey and who I am today, I think there's a couple of things. First is my cultural identity, right? So being Korean Canadian is actually pretty big for me. What I really liked about your story, Bruna, is your family upbringing too, because I do think that's a big swing factor. And then, hey, cutie. For me and my family, I am, I guess, the youngest. Yeah. So I have an older brother, but he is physically and mentally or cognitively disabled. So it results in, even though he's 5 years older than me, still wearing diapers, can't walk, can't feed himself. So with those types of, I guess, and my family, my parents are immigrants too. So I kind of see that as my definition of work, right? Of hard work and survival. And I think that's probably what led me to the freelance path in the beginning as well, with my family always being self-employed. As you might be aware, credentials don't transfer over when you come here.
No,
True.
not at all.
So a lot of immigrant families, especially Korean families, they start with like the laundromat or things of that nature, a grocery store, convenience store, that sort of thing. So I think that concept of working for yourself and you dictating how well you do was much more comfortable for me compared to working in a company. With that being said, so for me, I started with freelancing, and we'll kind of get into, I guess, the details of how we first started into freelancing a little bit later. But basically, I started freelancing out of university, did that for about, I want to say 5-6 years. But during those 5-6 years as well, I was having little flings with agencies. So I've worked at 2 agencies before. Even while I was freelancing, I was always doing other things as well. So I started a nonprofit for Korean Canadians, and that was tied to Korean traditional drumming, which is a very interesting endeavor.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's weird looking back because I didn't consider that a potential career path or anything like that. It was just, again, trying to find community, kind of like what we're doing today. But over time, I think I kind of became disillusioned with this field. I don't know if I became disillusioned with freelance itself, but in terms of photo and video, I became very kind of fed up in a way. And I think agency life didn't help that. That was when my pivot happened, was, okay, so now I see all these fancy clients. I see the back end. We're doing very cool projects, but I'm still not fulfilled. There's still something missing here, and I'm still ultimately bored. So I think that's what led me to think I need a little bit more depth in my day-to-day. I need a little bit more connection with people in my day-to-day, and not just think about project, profit, bottom line, that sort of thing. So I did a complete career pivot, and I started working in a university for the past, I want to say again, 5 years or something. It's funny. I think I approach things in 5-year terms. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try this route for 5 years. So I started at a university in like some temporary role, and then just worked my way up, switched universities, and I'm still there. But now I'm thinking of quitting, and I think that's what brought us together too. I started going to these freelance meetups in Vancouver that a friend started, and I met Dale.
Started cheating on your full-time job with little dipping your toes in
I've always
the
been.
the freelance dating
I've
pool.
always been.
Yeah. You've always been kind of like 9 feet in and 1 foot out.
100%. That probably sums me up and my journey up pretty well. Yeah, I think I've never stopped freelancing, ironically too. Like But I think that was more out of necessity. Of like, you can never have too much money in Vancouver, right? There's never enough.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a
Yeah.
pricey city.
It is. But yeah, so now I think I'm at this point where I'm really on the cusp again of not feeling quite fulfilled in that industry as well for different reasons. And then now I'm playing with the idea of returning back to freelance, but with more of a, I guess, mature mindset. Because I think when I left freelance, I was definitely not the most business savvy and not the most organized, not the most kind of approaching it as a business. It was just more approaching it as a craft and survival.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know, how did you start taking photos and videos?
Technically, I started taking photos in high school there was this yearbook class. So you would just go around the school and take photos and blah, blah, blah. In hindsight, I think that's what kind of really led to my style or what I like today, which is capturing real moments and more of a documentary approach to photography. And then after that, it was either, I was thinking about this past week. I don't remember how exactly I started. It's either one of two things, one of three things. Fuck, my memory is horrible. It's either I started just second shooting for somebody who started shooting weddings and just brought me on. It's either that or I started shooting stuff for church because I used to go to church.
Oh, wow.
Don't anymore. Yeah, a lot of people are surprised now. And then the third one.
I can see it.
Yeah?
You're a good guy, Joon.
I appreciate you.
Oh, you too. You were a church boy as
I
well.
was raised,
For real?
in
Yeah.
church life. Like I was like an
Wow.
altar boy and everything.
Damn.
My parents got us into it, but I have nothing to do with the church these days.
Interesting. I would not have known.
Yeah, me
Okay.
and my brothers, we were all altar boys, and try and get as much of that wine as possible.
That's that's fascinating. Okay, yeah. So I don't know if you did the whole church circuit then, but I did a lot of media for church, and that was more kind of my foray into video. I think at a different scale. Or the third one, and this is where I'm pretty sure my career started. So maybe that's the difference. I think maybe the other two were more just for how I got into photo and video for fun or as a hobby. And then for paid work, I was late for a barber appointment at this Surrey barbershop called Hades. And I love them. I was late and I noticed that their social media was amazing. Like the photos was just next level quality. They were doing something right. I had just started doing videos. So as an apology for being late, I was like, yo, can I just come and make a video for you guys? And then that's how my first fake job happened. And then after that, they started hiring me for gigs here and there. So that's kind of how I got started. But I never chose it. So it's very
That's
random.
awesome. But you did chose a very different path for the university, right? So how was that?
Like the pivot 5 years ago?
Yeah, because you didn't think about studying photo and video when you were younger, like taking a
100%.
course on it.
Yeah, never.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I think there's a couple of other elements there that I still struggle with today. It's just I hate formal education. But
Oh, and you work at a university.
I know. It's a big question mark. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the big irony, I think, of what I like. It's because what I struggle with, though, is that I love learning and I love ideas and thought, but I just don't like the way that we approach it. So I'm still attracted to the industry for some odd reason because of those ideals.
You're like fixing it from the inside.
I think so. I guess so. I don't have that much vision anymore. If I was younger, probably, yeah. Now I'm just kind of like, yeah, I just want to be close to it, you know? Yeah, I guess I just never felt the need to study it. And I feel like, again, in the beginning stages, I approached it more as a creative and identified more as a creative than an actual business owner, essentially. So because of that, the idea of studying it felt like a waste of time. I felt like it was just more, yeah, it comes natural. And I think it still shows even today. Like the more you guys get to know me, you see, I kind of just go with the flow and try to react and learn as I go. So trying to formally sit down and learn photography and videography just was nothing that, or it just never crossed my mind, I think. Although I don't discount it. I think it would still be useful. But for me, I just never thought of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you can start getting paid, before you even go to school for it, then it's like, oh, why do I need to
And
go
shit's
and
expensive.
Yeah. Why do I need to go pay when I'm already getting paid?
Exactly. And I guess this is the other side of that question is I already paid for a different education. Like I went to University of British Columbia, and I did an English degree out of all degrees. And that was expensive.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
I always find it really fascinating, especially like in the freelance and entrepreneurial world, what people's previous careers were and like how they then impact, the sort of like business person or the sort of creative person that they are, and the sort of solutions that they're able to solve, like as a freelancer, as a creative, or as an entrepreneur, because of their very unique history. And so like you went and studied English. Bruna, you studied marketing, and I studied photography. But I also have I've worked in a bunch of random different careers, like as a cook and as an administrator and stuff like that. And like those stack up as these really unique skill sets that cross over and make you the person that you are. And yeah, you can uniquely solve problems later in your life, and that you may not have been able to had you not worked that one random job, back in the day, or studied that random thing. And a lot of people, feel regret for not doing something sooner, or having gone down some career path or studied some course that has no seemingly relevance to their life today. But a lot of those skills, they show up, those lessons learned show up in really unique ways. And
100%. And I think also what's been interesting to me is essentially I switched from freelance to 9 to 5 and like a full-time day job, but the exact same thing is true there, where the amount of transferable skills from a entrepreneurial background makes the 9 to 5 system so much easier to excel in. I think it's harder to live with it and accept it, right? But it's I don't know, there's a lot of transfer. And what you said about flyover, Bruna, that work-life balance piece, at the beginning I had that. I was like, wow, this is fascinating. This is a different way of living, right? It is a very different mindset even. And I think even your values kind of get challenged over time, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
But I found that to be a very interesting and weird experience. Yeah.
Yeah, being able to put, your work down at 5 p.m. and just be able to completely switch off and move on with your life, until you check in Severance, at 9 a.m. the next day.
I still haven't seen that. I gotta watch that. Yeah.
No way.
Have you seen Adolescence though?
No.
Yeah, okay. There.
Well,
Okay,
that's our homework.
yeah.
Well, but the ability to just check in, when you start your shift and check out at the end, that just isn't a thing with, at least for me, with freelancing. I think Bruna, you're a year into freelancing, and I think you've done a way better job of leaving work at work, and on the weekends she can really turn off, whereas I'm still in this survival mode of I probably have to be doing things right now, and it's really hard to turn it off.
For you though, is that survival, or is that I want to grow? Is it more ambition, or is it more survival?
I think it's I want to grow because I need to survive. Probably something in my childhood, or the way that I was raised, or just the way that I am.
Yeah. Let's get into it then.
Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah.
You shared some information already, but we'd like to hear everything.
Yeah, so growing up in Australia, family, 3 older siblings, I'm the baby. My uncle actually was he was a photographer for the local newspaper for 30 years, chief photographer, and I always thought that was a really cool job. And yeah, just getting to see his life, it was I think that was injected into my subconscious as being that's a cool thing to do. He wasn't freelance, he was full-time, on staff, but his job just seemed cooler than probably everyone else's. My older brother was into photography. And he would use me as a subject and stuff like that, and photograph me. And my family was always very artsy, into dance, and we all did ballet together at one point. Yeah, we were very, very creative. My mom would paint around the house as well. Like she would do all these like textured walls and like paint like ivory leaves around the trim of like thing, like super detailed. Like it took her like, I don't know, like weeks or months just to do the kitchen. And she's probably the only one that like really appreciated like, that. But looking back, it's pretty incredible. And my parents were always like just very supportive of any of us doing whatever it is that we wanted to do, as adults. And when it came to like traveling or whatever, like we all kind of love to travel. Like we never got to travel growing up. We didn't have like the money to like go on like holidays or anything like that. So, but as soon as my siblings were like 18 or 19, they like got on a plane and went away for like 6 months or a year. It's very common in Australia to do like a gap year. So like, and when I got out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like all I knew is that I wanted to get the hell out of like go as far away as possible. I don't know why, but that was my mission. And and just do the gap year thing. And so I ended up in Europe for 5 months, and I did a backpacking trip through like Europe and a bit of Egypt as well.
Damn.
And before that trip, I was like, I need to get a camera, like, because everyone was like had some sort of idea of what they wanted to do when they were when they were 19 or whatever, and going in straight into university. They knew what they wanted to do, or they were going on a gap year, but they still knew what they wanted to do when they got back and what they were going to study. And I was just like, I have no idea, but I'm just going to go away and just YOLO it sort of thing.
Nice.
But I knew that I wanted to take some nice photos on the trip. So I bought a Nikon D40 back in 2006, I think, or 2007. And I got on I was on that Euro trip and just taking photos of all the architecture. And the first 2 weeks was like a Kentucky tour bus, and I was just like documenting all like these new friends that I had made.
Did you already have an understanding of how to use the camera?
Yeah, so I did study photography in I think year 9 or year 10 or something like that, and that was like all like darkroom stuff, like black and white film photography, and that was probably for like 6 months or a year. And so I love that. Like it was really fun. And then I remember doing like media studies and stuff like that. We had this really ghetto ass like digital camera that I don't know, it might have even had like taken like a full on like floppy disk or something like that. It was insane. It was ancient.
Was in Canberra?
Yeah, this is in Canberra. And so I knew that I kind of liked media and stuff, like approximately, and then when I was on that Europe trip, I was having a blast just taking photos and stuff like that. I was getting kind of creative. Like I would do like go out at like nighttime in like Czech Republic and take like slow shutter speed shots, like selfies, and like just it was really cool, like experimenting and just loving the craft. And whenever I got like a really cool photo, I was like so stoked. And then when I got back to Australia, I was like working and just in this 9 to 5 like admin job, but like on the weekends it would be like sunny and beautiful out, and I would be inside editing photos. And I'd actually signed up to be an animator because like I really like playing computer games. So I was like, I thought that was what I was going to do because I couldn't think of anything better.
So where, at university?
Technical college.
Okay.
Yeah, like a TAFE. They're super cheap in Australia. They're like, it's like $1,000 or $2,000 for like a semester or something like that. So or like $3,000 for the year, which is super affordable. And on the last day before cutoff, I was like, it was a beautiful day, sunny outside, and I'm just like inside editing photos from that Europe trip, and I'm like, why the hell am I signing up to be an animator? Like I love photography. So I called up the technical college, the TAFE, and switched my courses from being an animator to studying photography.
Nice.
And never looked back. It was like probably the best decision I ever made. Other than meeting Bruna, that was a pretty good decision. But yeah, it proved to be a wise decision. And I really enjoyed studying photography just for the purpose of like a lot of the teachers kind of sucked. Or like, I like hate formal education. And so, like, I just really struggle with it. Like, having ADHD and stuff, I didn't know I had it at the time, but like it makes a lot of sense now why I really disliked, formal education. But I love the practical aspect of things, and I loved being immersed in photography for 2 years. Like, and I learned probably a lot more from my peers than I did from my teachers and stuff, because we would all push each other, and some of them were just super talented photographers before they even like got into school. So yeah, anyway, finished up studying there, and I wanted to move out to Canada. I'd done a project photographing Canada from Vancouver to Halifax, taking buses and trains across the country.
What? How did that happen?
Part of the course is you could choose your own project to work on. And so I decided to like, I wanted to visit a bunch of those Canadians that I met on my Europe trip.
Yeah.
And so
that's why.
Yeah. So I went from Vancouver to Halifax, basically visiting them all. And Vancouver, I fell in love with Vancouver. And so, yeah, I was like, I'm going to photograph, documentary style, like across the country. And then I'm going to have an exhibition in Canberra. And I would get graded on the quality of the photos, and also like pulling off this exhibition and stuff like that, and selling some prints and all that sort of thing. So, like I did phenomenally well at those sorts of things, because that was like,
applied.
Yeah, it was applied.
That's a really cool project that they developed, though. Like the fact that you can even go to Canada for like during the school year.
Well, it was over I did it over like the winter break. Yeah, the winter break.
Still.
Yeah.
Dang,
it was
good
still
for
cool,
you.
yeah. But like honestly, like the photography course was pretty cool. Like we did all sorts of photography. Like we did fashion photography, food photography. We even did like aerial photography. Like they flew us up in a Cessna.
Wow.
So we could
Crazy.
like fly around camera, and got to like pick out kind of routes and stuff.
Legit. Damn.
Yeah,
okay.
and like years
That's
later,
awesome.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like years later, I was doing a shoot for Red Bull out in Regina, and I was photographing snow kiters as they were doing the snow kiting competition.
Don't even know what that is. But
Yeah,
it's
it's like snowboarding with like those ski kites.
Wow.
It's crazy. They do it
Okay.
like on farms and stuff like that. And there's this big epic one, I think, out in like Iceland or Norway or something, called Ragnarok, and it's like the biggest one in the world.
Wow.
And there'll be like hundreds of people just like flying down like these hills like with these snow kites.
Okay.
And so I had an idea that I kind of wanted to photograph it from the sky, because then looking down on it, it would be like white snow and all like these colorful kites, and I thought it would look kind of like those colorful sprinkles on like a white icing cake. And so I was like, they're like, hey, Dale, we want you to photograph this event, but if you have any like ideas for it, like let us know. And I'm like, oh man, it'd be cool to rent a plane and shoot it from the sky, because like that would be the best perspective. And they let me do it. So yeah, having had the experience in school, like photography school, flying in a plane and shooting out of a plane, I knew that like what sort of shot I could get from that, and had that experience flying in a Cessna. So I was able to apply the stuff that I learned in school into an actual real life photography project for Red Bull.
Sidestep. How does one do that? What type of lens do you even bring?
I think for that, like planes, like I always like shoot two cameras when shooting photography events. So like probably had a 24-70 on one lens, on one camera, and like maybe a 7200 on the other.
Wow.
But I did rent like I think it was like a 150 to 500 mil. For that event anyway. I got some pretty badass shots, because like the first day it was like minus 45 degrees, like with wind chill. That's Celsius, and so that's like, yeah, it's very freaking cold.
Yeah.
Like the Nikon camera I was using.
Oh yeah, does it even work?
Yeah.
It was malfunctioning pretty badly. Like the ISO was just randomly going up and down at that temperature. Like the batteries would last like 2 minutes. I just had my my pockets stuffed with
Hand warmer?
hand warmers just to like keep the batteries, and so I'd get like a couple of minutes of photographing, and yeah, it was a really intense event.
kidding.
And then the next, so they actually like finally shut the event down on the first day because it was like too cold, and then the second day it went down to -20, and it felt like it was a summer day compared to like the day before.
Gosh.
But then so I flew the plane on the second day and got some really cool shots. Yeah, worked out.
Oh, that's cool.
What a cool project, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's really awesome.
And then how did that lead to freelancing then?
My buddy who I was studying with, he had been shooting photos for a wedding photographer as well, like secondary and then probably senior. And so I started working for her as well, like shooting second photography for, a Canberra wedding photographer. And that ended up being a great first job, I think, as a photographer, because it's like kind of pressure off, but like you're still there to treat it seriously, and there's still like, you feel the intensity of important moments. And if you get like, if you have to go and capture photos by yourself, like you're the only one who's going to get those shots. So there's a lot of pressure still. But you get to see like an event from start to finish, and it's like very like documentary style. So I think it's a great place to learn photography.
Agreed.
And get paid. Like you don't get paid a lot, but you're getting paid to learn, and it's a really valuable skill. So I probably did like 10 of those or 15 or something like that.
In Canberra, right? And then how or when you came to Canada?
So after studying for 2 years, and doing that cross Canada trip, I was like, I want to move to Vancouver. So as soon as I finished studying, I had a choice, like study for a third year to get my degree, but that was like 10 grand for that year. And I'm like, I kind of got this at this point. Like I felt like I had it. And I'm like, I would rather put 10 grand in buying gear and go to Canada and go live in Canada for a year or two. And that year or two ended up being 15 years.
Wow.
And so, I've been here for 15 years, and I had to, my skills weren't really transferable like either. Like I had to start at entry level jobs. My first job, I went from getting paid like 25 an hour as like a 19-year-old or something, or 20-year-old in Australia, to getting paid like $9 an hour at a 7-Eleven in Canada.
Wow.
Damn.
And then I hated that. So, but I ended up working as a cook for 3.5 years, and that wasn't paying that much better anyway. Like, so, but the whole time, like I was still trying to make photography work. Like I was shooting free events, like, for like concerts and stuff like that for like local bands, and then luckily I met a nice guy at a bar who happened to be the Red Bull athlete manager, and he might have, and then I think he was switching to the communications manager for Red Bull Canada, and he's like, dude, love your work, I got to get you shooting for us. And so I started shooting jobs for Red Bull, and that was my first like major client in Canada. And they like really helped my career a lot because they brought me on a lot of cool projects. They trained me up. They had this phenomenal program called the Red Bull Photo Academy, where they sent me to Austria for a month.
What? I had no idea.
Yeah, it was insane. They helped me get my portfolio together, helped me put my website together. Or like they made it a project. And so I'm like, finally I have a deadline for this stuff. So like did that. Yeah, it really helped. And they helped my career a ton. And then a lot of the people who worked at Red Bull, when they moved on to other companies, they were like, I know a sick photographer, like let's get Dale in. And so there's a lot of people that I, have shot for over the years that used to work at Red Bull, that worked at agencies or other places. So yeah, Red Bull was the kind of foundation for me as building my career. And yeah, in 2014, I moved out to Toronto to work, to try and do this full time. And
what prompted the move? Why from here to there?
Well, how long do we have? I feel like I've already gone on.
Is that a long story?
It's a long story, but it's a good story.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, so I was photographing a Red Bull event in Whistler, and they had hired 4 photographers for it. It was the Red Bull Joyride event. And I was like cooking full time, like 6-7 days a week. And then like once a month or once every 2 months, Red Bull would call me for a shoot, and I would, have to take the day off and go shoot. And So yeah, Red Bull Joyride's like a massive, it's one of the biggest mountain biking events in the world, and they had 3 like legendary action sports photographers that I was going to be working with, and yeah, like we did the event, and I finished editing the photos, went out and partied for a bit, and then got back to the hotel room and like pulled up redbull.com to see what photos they had chosen, and they'd actually picked like 6 out of the 10 photos were my photos. And that was, kind of when I'm working with like the best photographers in the world, that was like such a massive honor for me. And it was also like a massive wake up call that I was like, I should really be doing this full time.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I couldn't do it in Whistler because it's too small of a market, and I'm not like that big into the action sports scene. Although I love it, I just don't have the connections. So I was like, I'm going to move to Toronto because I just shot like a world finals of a music competition there for Red Bull as well. And I was like, I'm thinking about moving here. And they're like, yeah, you should totally move here. We're going to have like a lot more music events. So I was like, with Red Bull being headquartered there in Canada, I was like, okay, this would be cool. Like, and I met some really cool photographers and stuff on that shoot out there. And so it just seemed like that's the place to do it. So yeah, I moved there in 2014. I was drinking like a maniac at the time. And ended up discovering that I'm an alcoholic, and managed to find my way into recovery, and Red Bull was there as soon as I got sober, and they heard that I was getting sober, and they're like, sweet, we'll like, we're going to give you this opportunity that we've been holding out from you because you've been a bit wild, but now it's like, oh, you're treating your career seriously, like, and that's when they sent me to Austria for a month.
That's incredible.
And yeah, that was very needed. And yeah, I had a lot of really cool people help me out then and teach me some really cool stuff. And but I still sucked. I absolutely sucked at freelancing. Like that happened to me 6 months into full-time freelancing, and
In Toronto?
yeah, in Toronto. And like a year later, I was still super broke. Like I was like constantly $5,000 in debt on my credit card. Like I just could not break the cycle.
That was pre-Austria or post-Austria?
That was post-Austria. Like,
shit.
yeah, like it gave me skills, but like this freelancing journey, it takes a really long time to, at least it did for me, like a really long time to make a living wage. I think my first year full time, I made like 17 grand. The next year was 30 grand. And the next year I think was like 50 grand. And when you're trying to live in a major metropolitan city, making like 17, 30 and 50 grand, like it's really freaking tough. Like, but I managed to kind of push through those really hard years until I started finding some good people to kind of collaborate and good business partners to work with to like start figuring out how to actually make money doing this.
Holy cow. Toronto's a big chapter, dude.
Yeah, I spent 6.5 years out there and then moved back to Vancouver during the pandemic.
Okay. Damn. Okay. Because I wasn't sure if you're half joking about the alcoholic thing.
No, straight up.
You went balls deep in it. You're for real.
Yeah, I had some pretty
love that expression.
I had some pretty real experiences.
Dang.
Yeah.
But it's been 10 years, right?
Yeah, I've
Since
been
you were in
sober
recovery,
for
yeah.
over 10 years now.
Good for you, man. Good for you. But also, I guess, because that you met your Red Bull contact at a bar.
That was actually one of the reasons why I probably drank for longer than I probably should have, was because I associated
Networking?
drinking and networking with success, because that's where I met a lot of people that I ended up working with.
And this is what we see a lot too, right? Everywhere in the movies, and like if you're cool and if you know a lot of people, it's because probably you drink with them. So
Yeah, it's a good social lubricant.
yeah, I'm glad you don't need that anymore though, because you're amazing.
Yeah, and so it's been now over 10 years of full-time freelancing. And I've learned a lot, and that's kind of why I wanted to find a way to share a lot of the lessons that I've learned, and that's when I met Joon at a freelancer meetup here in Vancouver. And he runs a YouTube channel. He's had, a lot of experience freelancing. And yeah, I really love the way that you are. And I was like, man, this would be such a cool guy to collaborate with. And I think collaborating with other creatives is like the best way to kind of get to that next level. Because there's only so much I think that we can do alone. And I need help with a lot of things. Like I don't video edit myself. I always have to rely on a video editor to cut all the films and stuff that we make. And yeah, this is a great space to share like the information that all three of us have kind of learned, and to bring on other creatives in our industry who have amazing stories and lessons to share. And it just seems like the right place to do it and the right time to do it.
All right, that's a wrap on episode 1. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully you learned a little bit about each of us. Dale, what can they expect in episodes moving forward?
So we're going to have a lot of guests come on to the podcast, other photographers, filmmakers, editors, as well as like some creative directors and producers from companies, people who hire us. We're going to have a lot of really interesting discussions, as well as some really fun segments. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I really hope you kind of join us on this adventure, and hopefully you get a lot out of it as well. And as we kind of build this freelance community together.
Thank you so much for listening. And if you liked, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, The Freelance Lounge, and give us 5 stars on Spotify.
5 stars, 5 stars.
5 stars! Whoop.